My favourite thing about Think Languages last year was the sense of community created throughout our school, especially with COVID and everything. It was kind of hard to get people active in something.
Definitely the samba drum and just learning all the different beats. It was very interesting.
My favourite thing about Think Languages last year was we had a Christmas market and we handed out food that were associated with the different holidays of different countries.
My favourite thing about Think Languages was definitely teaching my peers Polish. Since I'm fluent in Polish and my parents are both Polish, it was nice to show a bit of my culture and language.
My favourite thing about the Think Languages last year was getting to learn different languages that you wouldn't really get to learn in a school setting, like in secondary school.
My favourite thing about Think Languages was definitely the Austrian workshop. We got to find out about Austrian traditions, for example, their Christmas traditions, and I love making the gingerbread.
My favourite part personally about the Think Languages Day last year was learning the ballet. Everyone seemed to get really involved in it and it was a lot of fun seeing everyone laugh with their friends. They were really interested in it, definitely.
I really enjoyed talking to the EU interpreter and she told us a bit about the different career opportunities we could get with a language.
I've never heard Norwegian before, so a girl in our year taught Norwegian and it was really good.
Last year I tried Chinese and it was actually really interesting to learn that because I actually thought it was very difficult, but it was really interesting to learn it.
The day we tried Portuguese and we were counting and we were learning a different language.
And we also learned the basics in Chinese.
I really liked the Russian and ballet one because everyone was up moving. They were giving the instructions through Russian and just everyone enjoyed it. I tried Arab and belly dancing and it was really fun to see everyone up around and moving and just kind of enjoying themselves.
Mandarin Chinese, Spanish as well.
Italian.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to see the different cultures that are around the world and learn about the different things they do.
How the students were so eager to learn the new languages because I didn't expect so many students to be so interested.
The thing that surprised me the most is probably how easy it is to pick up on new languages. For example, we had an hour of Chinese and coming out I knew how to say hello, the numbers and simple phrases like can I have this if I was to order in a restaurant.
How quickly everyone seemed to get involved and how ready they were to learn new things. They were definitely more interested than I thought they would be, especially a lot of our year I didn't think would be interested in it. Everyone seemed to enjoy themselves for the day as well. It was great to see everyone laughing and having fun.
And the classes were really immersive, especially seeing as they were online.
Yeah.
It was actually really easy to follow the steps and instructions and stuff, so I thought that was good.
My name is Amanda Keane. I am from County Tipperary and I work for Plan International, which is a development and humanitarian NGO. When I was a child, we used to travel to Spain every summer with my family, and my father always said to me and my brother that it was good manners to learn a few words of the local language before we travelled. And I wanted to befriend the Spaniards, so I started to learn Spanish then when I was a teenager. I studied German and French for my junior cert and then German for my leaving cert. I studied applied languages then in the University of Limerick. I studied German, Spanish and I did Japanese for a couple of years before I switched to teaching English as a foreign language. I think when you can speak another language, it opens up so many opportunities to, number one, travel, but then to meet and to connect with people as well from all over the world. I spent a semester working in Argentina in a school in a town called Puerto Madryn. I was a teacher, an English teacher in the school, and then I did my Erasmus in Potsdam in Germany, just outside Berlin. I was the recipient of a scholarship through EIL, Intercultural Learning Ireland, so I went on their global awareness programme and I spent a summer volunteering in Mexico City, working in a red light district with women involved in prostitution, on-street prostitution, and women who were victims of trafficking. To be able to speak Spanish and to be able to interact with the women that I worked with and that I volunteered with, but also the service users of the organisation was hugely enriching because they were the ones who had the insight into the area and just who shared so much about their lives and their experiences. And yeah, it was definitely challenging, but it had a huge impact on me. There's been such an increase in the number of international companies and organisations that have come to Ireland. So I think, you know, when you look at job specs and you talk to people who work in different industries, particularly around tech, languages is definitely a huge advantage. Even working in hospitality, to be able to properly make a connection with someone who's here to visit the country, that's huge. So employers will often look at someone's second language skills. If you speak a language, it's easier to get to grips with a culture. You meet people, you make friends, and you can integrate yourself much better. I've definitely built some really strong friendships and relationships from travel. So you're going to meet people who are from maybe your country, but also maybe other countries who have shared experiences and shared emotions. So you tend to be able to build up a support network. I think that having a different language and having travelled definitely increases my critical thinking skills, my kind of perception of things. I can look at things in a much broader perspective nowadays, now that I can see it from different angles, and to always think that, you know, something that might be applicable or normal in one culture, it doesn't always translate very well into other cultures or countries or languages. So I think especially as we look at like the rise of misinformation, to be able to think about things in a more critical way and from a different perspective is very useful. What I would say to anyone who is embarrassed to speak another language, I would tell them what my Japanese lecturer used to say in Limerick, which was, you need shameless fluency, because once you can communicate an idea or a word or a concept, then you're fine. You don't need to have perfection and fluency in a language. It's all building blocks, it's foundation. So use the language that you have and don't be afraid to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We make mistakes in English every day if you're a native English speaker. So to make mistakes is normal. I think if you are open to learning another language and learning about other cultures, then you are going to begin to become more empathetic or more understanding around other people's circumstances and scenarios. You know, you think about all the people who have moved to Ireland from other countries. They could be free to move around Ireland, they might be restricted in their movements, they might be seeking asylum. You can't put yourself in someone else's shoes necessarily, but you can start to understand that things aren't always straightforward for more marginalised groups in society. And I think that there is a reluctance in native English speaking countries to pick up other languages because our assumption is that we can move through the world with ease. But if you don't speak another language, then you're actually missing out on so much because it's a different level of communication. You miss out on cultural nuances, you miss out on conversations, you miss out on meeting people that you wouldn't otherwise meet if you only spoke English. If you learn a language and if you put yourself out there and if you can find yourself communicating with people that you never thought you'd be able to communicate with, I think that that's definitely huge for personal development and well-being.
I chose French because I think it's a really beautiful language, and ever since I was younger I wanted to go to France, and when I did last year I thought it was really interesting that I could communicate with people or even go into a shop and order what I wanted in French, and I think it shows a lot of respect for the people that live there.
Well, currently I'm studying German for fifth year and I really enjoy it.
I'm studying French to help me get my course in Maynooth for primary teaching.
I chose German because it's a subject I love. I find it really fun, and I feel like German class is fun. We have so much variety in German class. For example, listening comprehensions, reading, we play so many games as well, which helps to do the learning.
I chose Spanish because of how widely spoken it is in the world, that I could go into so many different countries around the world and instantly be able to communicate with them because I chose the language at school, and I think that's really interesting.
French. We've been learning it for a few years now, so we're doing pretty well at the moment.
Yeah, I think so.
Hopefully. Yeah, and we're just hoping to go with that for the Leaving Cert as well.
I think I'd like to learn Spanish as well. I think Spanish is a nice language, and I like Spain as well, so I'd like to learn that and maybe visit it or live there when I'm older.
I'd love to learn Spanish one day because I go there a lot, and I think it'd be really interesting to be able to speak to people in their own language as well, rather than communicating to them through their second language while you're in their country.
I think Norwegian. I went to Norway once and it's a lovely country, so Norwegian.
I'd actually love to learn Chinese. I did a bit of it last year in fourth year. We got to try it out. We had a Chinese teacher. She came over from China to teach us, and it was really interesting. And I loved the class. Like, I loved going to it every week. I'd love to, maybe use that. It's, a huge language. I'd love to travel to China maybe and, have that. So it'd be really cool.
Japanese in the near future, hopefully, once I finish school, and Mandarin as well, because that seems to be a well-spoken language around the world, which could open a lot of opportunities for me.
I'd like to learn Spanish as well, because I'd like to travel around Spain and that, see the different life and culture around there.
Yes, I was thinking of studying French third level.
Yeah, so either learning a language or becoming a teacher, so maybe a secondary school teacher, a French or Irish one, and go over and teach in schools abroad then and go travelling for a little while.
I might consider languages. I enjoy them anyway, so I might consider it. I'd even like to go and get into a course and maybe do an Erasmus and live in a French-speaking country or France and improve my French and get better.
I've definitely considered taking my language into third level because I think it's a really beautiful language and I would love to learn it further and study it further. Or even, I haven't decided what I want to do after school, but because I do French, I can pick something to study and study it in France, and I'd love to live in France.
Well, I haven't thought about that yet and I'm not sure, but right now I'm really enjoying the German and I'm doing quite well, so I might incorporate it in my third level.
Possibly I could if I went abroad and worked. It'd be very helpful to have different language if I needed it.
Although it's quite early to decide, I am thinking about studying German in third level.
I'd love to keep a language at third level. I think it's such a useful skill, even knowing how to learn a language, and I'd love to be able to learn different languages and just learn more about languages and cultures.
Definitely. It's really fun to be able to speak to other people, open new doors to talk to other people, learn new cultures, and yeah.
And it's been well taught, like in our experience, we've had great teachers and that show us the ropes.
My name is Ian McKinley and I was a professional rugby player, and my dream had always been to play rugby for Ireland. Unfortunately, a tragic accident happened to me when I was 20 in 2010 when I was playing a game of rugby, and a teammate of mine just unfortunately stood on my face and his stud went into my eyeball and burst my eyeball, which ultimately left me blind in my left eye, and I had to retire from the sport that I absolutely adored and loved, aged 21. Everything was going in the right direction from school. I was getting picked for Leinster teams, got picked for the Leinster Academies. I was fortunate enough to then be part of the Irish under-20s for our World Cup in 2009 and managed to captain Ireland in the last game against Samoa. This dream was happening. It was getting onto a bigger stage, and yeah, you can say that I was destined for good things, but when that injury happened, it was absolutely devastating. So yeah, I just thought I needed to stay involved in rugby as much as possible. St Mary's and UCD, my two clubs that I was with, were really good, giving me opportunities to coach, and yeah, through that I got a call, and my academy manager in Leinster said, would you fancy going over to Italy? So I had a massive obsession with Italian rugby, and just to get out of Ireland, because teammates of yours or people your same age would go to you and say, oh, you were a great player, what happened to you was such a shame, and all this. I hated being spoken about in the past tense, and I just wanted to make my own direction, my own future, my own path. So off to Italy I went with zero Italian. This burning desire to play international rugby never left me. Rugby goggles became a reality in 2014. Picked up the first pair and started playing with my local club. It was an amazing feeling. So everything just sort of worked out for me. I got myself an agent, and he managed to set me up with a professional team in the professional league over there. And so 3 years after I retired, I was a professional rugby player again. My dream had dramatically changed. It was now in 2017, being in the middle of the stadium in Catania, singing L'Inno dell'Italia, wearing a blue jersey, the Azzurri, playing against the white jersey of Fiji, and that was just as satisfying, if not more, to do that. I was so happy that I went to the city that I did, because Udine is right in the northeast of Italy, near the border of Austria, Slovenia, and there wouldn't be that many English speakers. Now, I had one coach with me who was bilingual, and he helped me an awful lot. But ultimately, you would go to the shops, you would go to a restaurant, you would ask for directions. I would have to ring up about internet, post, whatever, with no Italian whatsoever. They were very kind to me, my club. They threw me into a situation where I had to teach kids English and rugby, but also try and improve my Italian. So they threw me in with teenagers, and there was about 50 of them. No interest in rugby whatsoever, and I had to try and pick up pretty quickly what the Italian language was. So that was massively difficult at the start, but unless you put yourself in those uncomfortable situations, you just don't progress. So I was lucky enough that maybe about 14 months in, I was pretty much fluent. Your confidence mightn't have been exactly sky high going over there to learn, but the big thing I found, particularly with Italians, if you tried, they would do their utmost to help you. And it was also strange for them having an Irish person living in Udine. It's not really a common thing. So my attitude absolutely 100% changed. I knew before going out though that in order to try and gain the respect of people, and when you're teaching kids in particular, the team I was coaching was an under 16s team, so you have guys of 14, 15. If I start ranting and raving in English, so they're not gonna pick up on anything I'm gonna say. I know if I was 15, I would want the coach to try and learn basic colours, basic numbers, and that actually helped me, because sometimes I'd take 4 or 5 year olds, so the basic things of learning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 was very, very helpful. It was literally day in, day out, full immersion, just being in the middle of everything and putting yourself in awkward situations. I would be given a bit of responsibility in organising mini rugby tournaments, so I would get calls from Italian numbers. You know, they would say, si fa, si fa, si fa. And that, is it on, is it on, is it on? Because the weather might have been really bad, and then I picked up, oh, si fa. So, and then the conversation ends pretty quickly. But that gives you confidence just to plug away. And like, I do remember my boss said to me, you'll start dreaming in Italian, which happened, and then all of a sudden you will just start speaking. So I was out with friends at a bar, and all of a sudden I said, you know, a phrase in Italian, and the guys for a year and 2 months who had been listening to me speak English just all of a sudden turned and went, oh, hang on a second there, you're starting to speak. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. You actually make more mistakes as you go along and you get into it further, but I didn't care. It gave me a huge amount of confidence to be able to go from a situation where in school you weren't very good at languages to then all of a sudden pretty much been fluent. I won't say 100%, but pretty good. It's massively important just to throw yourself in at the deep end is what I'd say. So I think that's going back to having that respect and, you know, just learning about people. And I remember, you know, in Treviso we lived, myself and my wife lived on the top floor in a 5-story building, and we would have an elderly couple who I still keep in contact with to this day, who, you know, would invite us over for Sunday lunch, their birthdays, and you know, I would find myself after training going over and getting a plate of food off her, and I could be there for 2 hours just chatting to her, learning about her life and learning about her time during the war and things that you read about but you don't really live. And you know, I certainly matured listening to those things, and that's how you pick it up. Becoming part of a community, becoming part of a place, and you know, it opened up you doing media interviews in Italian, or doing, you know, other different things that you wouldn't necessarily think of. Ultimately, the biggest compliment I ever got was, you would never know you're Irish. That was the thing, again, that just gave me the the biggest confidence to go forward with it. Italian is very close to Spanish now. You know, it makes me go, well, you know, if I'm able to learn Italian, I can maybe learn Spanish. I look now at some French films or songs, and you know, the subtitles, or you listen and you can go, well, you can really pick out words that beforehand I thought was just a complete blank, and no way am I going to be able to get this. So it has made me hungry to, you know, explore different languages, and having that sort of French-Spanish connection as well. Who knows what could happen, because you just don't know what's down the track. You don't know where your life is necessarily going to take you. It could go perfectly well, which is fantastic, or you might have a speed bump and you just don't know what way it can go. I keep hard at it. I don't want to lose it by any stretch of the imagination. I try and talk to my friends as much as I can. And apart from that, it's just culturally as well, seeing how other people go about things and seeing the importance of language, the gestures and everything. You know, Italians always get slagged for this, but understanding what is the meaning of this, you know, what's the meaning of being hungry, and where do those signs come from and everything. For me, maybe when I was 16, 17, I didn't fully appreciate it, but definitely now, age 31, you can step back and try and understand it more, because it definitely will give you options in later life. Yeah, so I think there are two phrases probably that I would cling on to. One is basically said to everyone going out into the field is sort of in bocca al lupo, which means in the mouth of the wolf. So it basically means good luck. And the other one would be a phrase sort of that I would hold on tight to. My time at a team called Rugby Viadana, they had a phrase, a motto for their club, which was mai mular, which meant never give up. And I just think with everything that everyone is having to deal with COVID, and sort of my story, whenever you sort of feel like you've hit rock bottom, if you really want to achieve something, you know, you never give up. You keep on going basically to achieve what you want to do. So I just think that's a really important one.
I'm definitely more aware. I've started watching movies in different languages and listening to music, and trying to just enjoy the different cultures and languages from around the world.
Definitely. I think I'm more, I listen out for them more when I'm out about in the town and things. And it's fun to try and understand when you hear a language you're learning in school, trying to hear the conversation and trying to interpret it.
I do hear like girls speaking Russian, Slovakian, and Czech, which is quite similar to Polish.
Yeah, I've become more aware, especially around the school, with all the different cultures, such as like Arabic, Polish, Slovakian, and Lithuanian.
Yeah, there's a lot of linguistic diversity in our school, especially for last year's Think Languages Day. We did a video explaining a lot of different languages spoken from other students in the school.
It was surprising the amount of people.
Yeah.
It was about 14 or 15 different languages that we never even were aware of.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the connections that you make with people, like the amount of friends and people that you meet, like the amount of people that you could help through another language as well. Like, how can you connect or communicate with someone if you can't speak to them?
I think the best thing about speaking another language is to be able to go to another country and speak the language that is spoken most common in the country, and to be able to understand people in the street, and to be able to read signs, and just be able to communicate with people.
Definitely, like if you ran into someone from another country, just being able to talk in their language to make them feel more at home in Ireland.
I think the best thing is just, again, if you're going travelling, and even just simple questions to ask or phrases to say, it's really good to know. And also, like in the school, we have different cultures and languages here, so it's really good to be able to speak and communicate with them.
If I was able to speak a language fluently, you could help someone who was struggling if they didn't speak the native language from the country. If you were able to speak fluently to them, you'd help them out, make them feel more comfortable around themselves. You're very helpful towards them as well.
I think it would be nice to communicate with other people that can speak German, and build other like friendships and that with German people. I love the fact that you're able to meet new friends and you don't have to worry about the language barrier there. I'm a waitress, and recently I had German customers, and I was able to help them order since I know German myself.
Like if I've travelled quite a lot, mostly to Spanish-speaking countries like Spain, Tenerife, and a few times to France, and the differences in the cultures and the languages, but also how similar they are, that you can pick up on certain things. Because I know Spanish, I could be in France and understand half a conversation, and that's so cool that I'm able to understand so much because I learned one thing.
And being able to communicate and understand with different people that you never would be able to talk to if it wasn't for that language.
Yeah. Learning new cultures, new experiences from other people in different countries, definitely as well.
I think speaking another language, it really helps you to know the culture and the history. I'm very interested in the history of other countries and stuff, and I think learning another language, it really shows you an insight into other people and other cultures and how other countries work, and yeah, I think it's very interesting.
We won this award for the hashtag Think Languages National Champion Team 2020.
We felt amazing winning it. It was a big shock. We didn't really expect to win, but we put a lot of work in, so we're very happy.
Don't forget, you can win an amazing opportunity. You can win a scholarship with EIL to study abroad. So don't forget to get your applications in by the 17th of December.
Gwynchana was yn lo agus as yn code Think Languages.
Dzień dobry, mam nadzieję, że Think Languages się Wam bardzo spodoba w tym roku i powodzenia życzę.
Ragazzi, grazie mille per la vostra attenzione, in bocca al lupo per la giornata, ci vediamo, ciao.